Hello, hello. This is the my artifact episode number 3910. Today's date is February 26, 2026. It's been almost like a morning at 8:55 p.m. Sorry, a.m. 8:55 a.m. All right, all right. Let's just jump into the question. Let's go. All right. The question is, what is one unhealthy financial habit that I continue repeating even though I knew it's not good for me? Oh, that's a really good question. Alright, yeah. First of all, what exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? Um, couple of days ago, couple of weeks ago, I read a book, Psychology of Money. This book is really good. I highly recommend read this book. Basically, this book is actually about the financial habit. Why does kind of like a poor people are poor, rich people are rich, and things and that and that. There are so much kind of like a information that kind of like a provided by author. Morgan House is a author. Okay, I read that book and it was really good. But I realized that it doesn't really make sense if I'm not implementing those value in my real life. If I want to read the book, or if I read the book, it's really essential for me that I have to be implement all the values in my life. Okay, yeah. So I realized that I have to be ask question to myself. So I went to ChatGPT and kind of like say that ki, I wanted to implement the value from psychology of money from this book. Okay, yeah. So suggest me at least 20 questions so that I would kind of like implement the value from the book in my real life. Okay, so this is one of those questions. Okay, yeah. I would kind of like give the a very honest answer regarding about that ki what is exactly the unhealthy financial habit that I continue repeating that I thought it's not really good for me. Okay, yeah. It's a kind of like a thing that are you kind of like simply spending money on such a thing that you already think that it's not really good. Are those any kind of like a stuff that you are kind of like a spending money? Well, uh, well, okay. Let me tell you about myself. Okay, yeah. I am 32. I am not earning any money. Okay, so because of I am not earning any kind of like a simply money, I am not spend money that much. Okay, yeah. Whatever the money that I spend is I make sure those money spent on essential thing. Okay, I do buy some sort of stuff like a t-shirts and kind of like a simply shorts and things like that when it necessary, but I like a willing to spend such a thing that is kind of like a very essential. That's it. I does not kind of like a spend money on such a thing that is kind of like a simply not does not add any kind of like a value and things and that. Okay. um I realize that ki when the people who kind of like started earning money, they spend money too. Okay, like it's a kind of like a psychology of the people. Okay, yeah. When they earn money, they spend money too. When they earn more money, they spend more money too. Okay, yeah. Example is this thing that I was kind of like doing a job, and when I was kind of like doing a job, I was not really hesitate to buy 1,000 rupees of t-shirt. Okay, yeah. But right now I'm not really earning any money, so I make sure that whatever the t-shirt that I should supposed to buy is less than 500 rupees. Okay, yeah. So basically, I realize that when you earn money, you kind of like buy similar stuff in higher price. Okay, yeah. And this is what kind of like everyone does it. I don't know, but it actually happened with me, and maybe it actually happened with you, because I seen in my surrounding that people just kind of like buy stuff regarding about their wealth that they have. Okay, yeah. Like example is this thing that ki couple of months ago I was kind of like doing a shopping with my brother. Okay, yeah. He's earning, by the way. He's kind of like doing a job. He's like a really good. He has money and things and that. Oh yeah. And basically this thing na he wanted to buy a kind of like a assembly, like basically this thing na, we are actually kind of like a buying shirt for my father's birthday. Okay, yeah. So basically this thing that ki we decided that ki we should supposed to buy some sort of stuff. Okay, yeah. So basically this thing na, he just bought a shirt for my father which cost almost like a more than 2000 rupees. I was like, dude, why are you spending that much amount of money for birthday gift? No, it's like basically is this thing that ki no, shirt is really essential. My father loves it. He will kind of like a look really cool and things and that. Like shirt is. I'm not kind of like a somebody kind of like a saying this thing. Shirt is not really good. Shirt is good. Yeah, my father loves it, but it's like 2000 rupees for shirt. It's like it doesn't really add something really value. But still, is this thing that he's willing to spend. So he spent. Okay, he spent that 2000 rupees on shirt, which is I feel that probably is this thing. If I buy a kind of like a 500 rupees of shirt, it might be okay. It might be kind of like a small work done, but still he bought 2000 rupees of shirt. There is also another moment. Me and my brother, we actually went to buy fatake, firecrackers for Diwali, probably couple of years ago. Okay, yeah. Now, basically, how much money should you supposed to be buy? How much money should you supposed to spend on firecracker? By the way, firecracker are very expensive. Like I never really thought that firecracker is a kind of like that much expensive. Whatever. So basically, is this thing na ki how much money should you supposed to be spent on firecracker? Well, I would kind of like decided that probably 500 to 1000 rupees is hard enough. But he actually buy firecracker like probably almost like a 2 to 3000 rupees of firecrackers. I was like, dude, why are you spending that much amount of money on firecrackers? Like, yeah, like basically it's a Diwali, we should supposed to celebrate and things and that. So he just spent it almost like a 3000 rupees on firecracker. I was like, boy, okay, yeah. So, and it's not just kind of like a him. I also kind of like a realize in myself too. Like basically when I was kind of like doing a job, I was kind of like living at Nagpur city, and there is a kind of like a weekend, so I went to the mall. Okay, yeah. Like basically I didn't really went to the mall. I went to kind of like a city or things and that. By the way, there is a mall that I haven't really visited, so I went there inside. Okay, yeah. And I like the jacket. There is a jacket in there. I like the jacket, which cost almost like a 2000 rupees. Okay, yeah. Like original price was almost like a 5000 rupees. Will kind of like get a discount in 2000 rupees and things like that. By the way, I knew that is not a discount. It's the kind of like original price of this jacket is kind of like a 2000 rupees. It's just kind of like a marketing stuff and things like that. But I didn't really knew that at that time. Okay, yeah. And I spent 2000 rupees on that jacket. 2000 rupees on that jacket. Like literally, it doesn't really make sense. I'm living in India. Why do we really require jacket? Like basically, it's a very hot sun, probably almost like a 30-40 degrees Celsius. You might kind of like take off all the clothes that you have, and in that case, you are kind of like buying the jackets and things like that. So it's just like that, na. I realize that when people are earning money, they also spend money too. Very proudly, by the way, very proudly. Yes. Like I kind of like find so many people who are earning money, yeah, and they are kind of like buying stuff on EMI. Okay, like a couple of weeks ago, one of my friend who actually kind of like bought the iPhone. Okay, now okay, buying iPhone is like I'm not have a kind of like a choice regarding about he could supposed to buy anything that he want, but that iPhone is a very expensive, like almost like a 50,000 rupees. Okay, 50,000 rupees, and he buy that phone from EMI, like a basically monthly installment and things like that. Like why do you buy this thing? Like you have a salary of almost like a 25 or 30,000 rupees. Okay, why are you kind of like suddenly buying this stuff? No, like I want to buy and things like that. I wanted to use the iPhone and things like that. But dude, you can buy a kind of like a somebody really good phone or actually exist in kind of like a 15 to 20,000 rupees. Why are you kind of like spending 50,000 rupees on this phone? No, he says I wanted to buy iPhone, and he bought the iPhone with the EMI, with very proudly buy. He was kind of like a somebody, kind of like a spending, kind of like a EMI and things and that and that. So basically, is this thing spending money, like how much money should we supposed to be spent, is kind of like a depend upon how much money that particular person should supposed to be earn. Okay, and that is one of the biggest realization that has actually happened. So the question is not about a kind of like a some this thing that where like a basically this thing how should you supposed to be save money and things and that and that. It's about the mentality. It's about kind of like a things that na ki I am independent, so I will willing to spend money on things and that and that, and that is true. Now I have to be asked question to myself, like in the future, if I will earning money, okay, yeah, will I spend like so much amount of money? Like basically, this is saying that ki, let's just say there is a kind of like a 5,000 rupees of t-shirt. Would you spend 5,000 rupees on t-shirt? Probably 5,000 rupees spent on just a t-shirt. Can I able to spend that thing? Like I know that t-shirt is kind of like a really good, really great and things like that, but probably is this thing na ki, like I'm not really sure about this thing. Why is that? Because of that na ki, as I mentioned, is this thing ki every person is a kind of like a willing to spend regarding about how much he actually earning. Now I am kind of like a buying this 300 rupees 400 rupees of t-shirt is a kind of like a really good enough for me. But if I'm earning, will I spend 3,000 5,000 rupees on t-shirt? Like my right answer would be like I shouldn't supposed to spend that much amount of money on things and that and that. But problem is that na ki I'm not really sure. I can't give the proper answer. Why? Because still same mentality. Okay, even if I'm kind of like say this thing that he I will not gonna spend 5,000 rupees on t-shirt and things like that, but I will gonna spend. Why? Because I don't know how do I supposed to explain this thing. It's a kind of like a things that na ki we just spend money. That's it. Okay, it's a kind of like a things that ki we are showing the evidence of we are independent. And how do we supposed to show that show that evidence? By buying stuff by themselves or things and that and that and that. I will make sure that I will not supposed to be buy that much expensive clothes, but still I'm not really sure. I just promise to myself that I will not gonna buy, but still is this thing is there is a lot of things actually involved, the inflation, the emotion, like I could able to be do this thing or that and that. Okay, it is also kind of like a depends on something like a basically is this thing na ki let's just say that ki if I have a salary of almost like a 10 lakh rupees per month, then in that case can I able to be spend 2,000 rupees on t-shirt? Like 10 lakh rupees per month I'm actually earning money or more than that. So 2,000 rupees of shirt is nothing for me. So that is also kind of like something happened too. Okay, yeah, like if you are kind of like earning too much amount of money, then probably thousands of rupees or couple of thousand rupees is doesn't really make sense at all. You just kind of like spend it like a just small piece of cash and that's it. Kind of like a chiller. So I think that now regarding about this question, the question says that ki what one unhealthy kind of like a financial habit that I continue that even though I am not, it's not really good for me. I think that na it's a kind of like simply the mentality probably. Okay, yeah. I make sure that whatever the stuff that I will gonna buy is should supposed to be provide some sort of amount of value. Okay, yeah. Example. It's not that I will not gonna buy expensive stuff. I will gonna buy. But that expensive stuff kind of like a provide me that kind of like a value or not. Example, um if I wanted to go travel from position A to position B, there is a vehicle too, like a cycle, bicycle, a car, okay, luxury cars too, okay, yeah. So which mode of transportation should I supposed to be choose? Depends upon how much money do I earn. Like, I'm not really earning any money. I have kind of like a motorcycle, so I would choose motorcycle. If I'm earning money, I might have a car, okay, yeah, a proper kind of like a little bit of SUV. Then I will kind of like somebody goes from point A to point B. If I'm earning kind of like a crazy expensive money, should I spend on luxury car? Well, I might gonna spend money on luxury car, but that is a one thing. Okay, yeah. Let me tell you kind of like a couple of stuff. Okay, yeah. As I mentioned, is this thing, I will kind of like a spend money on kind of like expensive stuff. In returns, that stuff will kind of like a give me some sort of amount of value. Now, what is exactly the value? Example is this thing that let's just say you are a kind of like a very rich person, okay, and you have a kind of like a somebody respect in the society or things and that and that. Now you are going to the event, okay, yeah. So which car should you supposed to be go to that event? Obviously a kind of like a somebody such a car that you could kind of like a afford and things like that. You will not gonna kind of like a somebody choose such a car that is kind of like somebody just ordinary, like a typical SUV. No, you will kind of like a buy Rolls Royals and kind of like a things, because Rolls Royals is not kind of like a simply provide you from location 1 to location 2. No, it is actually providing, yeah. But the kind of like a somebody, the Rolls Royals provide me such a value that normal SUV car will not gonna provide. What is that value? Luxury. When I kind of like a somebody came out from that Rolls Royals, people kind of like a find it that okay, this particular person is actually rich. That I am getting that kind of like a somebody vibe that I am kind of like a rich is because of that Rolls Royals. So do you understand? I will gonna buy such a stuff that provide me a value. Okay, yeah. Okay. So I will gonna kind of like buy that stuff. Like if I will gonna buy a kind of like assembly the expensive kind of like assembly cars like a Lamborghini or things and that and that. In returns, that car should probably provide me something some sort of amount of value. Okay, yeah. But there is also another thing too. Okay. Example is this thing that if I wanted to go from position A to position B, which car should I supposed to be choose? It's not an event, it's not a thing. Okay, yeah, but which car should you supposed to be choose? Depends upon where you are kind of like where is that location. Let's just say I'm from India, so basically that location 1, location 2 is actually in India. Okay, yeah. So let's just say I am actually going from kind of like only Bombay to Pune. Okay, yeah. So, and I have kind of like a very crazy expensive amount of money. I am very rich person. Okay, yeah. So which car should I supposed to be choose? Lamborghini? Well, no. Why? Because it's not an event. It's not I want to show off. It's a kind of like a things that ki Lamborghini car drag attention. And when it drag attention, then probably it's not really good. Okay, yeah. So I will not gonna choose Lamborghini. Now Rolls Royals. Should I choose Rolls Royals? Well, yeah, Rolls Royce I will gonna choose, but still it is also kind of like a drag little bit of attention too. Okay, yeah, because still it's a Rolls Royce. It's just people gonna attention. It's not really dragging that much attention like a Lamborghini, but it will gonna drag something attention. Okay, like let's just say you are kind of like a stuck at traffic, and the Lambo and the kind of like somebody Rolls Royce actually stuck at the traffic. Look at that imagine that scenario. Kind of like a Rolls Royce is actually kind of like a stuck at red signal. It just doesn't really right? So I will not gonna choose the Rolls Royce. Then what vehicle should I supposed to choose? I will gonna choose such a kind of like a somebody vehicle which is blend in the society. Okay, yeah, probably a kind of like a something the kind of like a somebody Range Rover probably, which blend into the Indian society, or maybe something like a Fortuner. Okay, Toyota Fortuner, which is also blend in the society. Okay, yeah, because these are kind of like cars are blend in the society. It will not gonna drag that much attention and things and that and that. So this is what it is. Okay, yeah. So it's not just about money. It's about a kind of like a simply what that kind of like a stuff is kind of like a what kind of like a value that providing. Also, is this thing that value is kind of like a necessary or not? Sometime I just want to kind of like a simply hide. I just wanted to hide behind the kind of like a shadows and things like that. In that particular case, why do I supposed to choose Lamborghini? Because it drags the attention. Obviously not. So this is what it is. This is what kind of like a simply money regarding about stuff and kind of like spending money on regarding about stuff. Okay. So regarding about this question, the question says that ki what kind of like a simply money that you are kind of like a spending that you kind of like a feel something really wrong. Okay, like right now I'm kind of like a thinking from rich point of perspective, but in right now condition, what is actually stuff that you are kind of like a spending, like I'm kind of like a spending money on something that I might think it's not really right. Well, a couple of months ago, I kind of like bought the Amazon Prime subscription, which is almost like a 1400 rupees per year. 1400 rupees per year is really not that big amount of money, but I think that na ki it's also not really good. Okay, yeah. Why? Because of that ki OTT is like I have a subscription of Netflix. Okay, and Netflix is a kind of like a good enough. Okay, yeah. Buying another subscription from another OTT, it just doesn't really right. Then why I bought this subscription? Actually, is this thing na ki my sister is kind of like a somebody asking me for this, and she wanted to watch kind of like a couple of content and things and that, and I also realized that ki okay, let's take it. Okay, like I kind of like watch couple of movies from OTT, but sure, this is kind of like a stuff that I might think it's not really right, but probably is this thing that account is actually shared, like my sister and I kind of like use that thing, so probably it's worth it to spend almost like a 1400 rupees on Amazon Prime. But still I don't really feel it's the right decision, but I'm okay with that thing. What about Netflix? 200 rupees on Netflix, does it worth it? Well, 200 rupees on Netflix, does it worth it or not? Well, I think it's worth it, because still Netflix is also kind of like an account that we both share. My sister and I we both share that same account, and 200 rupees per month, which is also good enough. It's not really that, but okay, yeah. So I think these are kind of like a stuff that I am kind of like a spending. But by the way, I do have a kind of like a YouTube subscription. But YouTube subscription never really kind of like bother me that much, because I watch a lot of YouTube content, and I watch a lot of really good YouTube content regarding about history, lot of stuff. Okay, yeah, I don't want to kind of like get the ads and things and that. So basically, spending money on YouTube Premiere is a very like it's a really legit kind of like a things. Like it kind of like get me so much amount of values and things and that. But OTT just feels like that little bit of something. Spend money, but I would kind of like occasion things like that. Okay, now right now I am not kind of like spending money that I am kind of like a regret and things and that. But in the future, I might gonna spend money on something that I might gonna regret. Okay, yeah. But still, is this thing na ki why are you kind of like say this thing in the future? Because like basically in the future I might have a lot of money. Okay, yeah. And probably is this thing I might gonna spend that money on something. I just have to make sure that whatever the money that I would gonna spend should supposed to be add value. If it not, then I don't know how I'm supposed to do this thing. But still I make sure that whatever the money that I will gonna spend is kind of like provide me some sort of amount of value, right? All right, so this is it. I should supposed to be end here, and thank you.